Welcome to Eternal Philosophies. Imagine a realm where every impulse of the human soul is mirrored as an eternal punishment, where justice is not blind but precise, poetic, and unavoidable. Welcome to Dante's Inferno, the gateway into the darkest depths of morality. Today on Eternal Philosophies, Dante Alighieri, the Divine Comedy, and Virgil. Dante Alighieri, 1265 to 1321, was a Florentine poet, politician, and philosopher whose exile from Florence sparked the creation of his magnum opus, the Divine Comedy. Composed between 1308 and 1321, the work chronicles Dante's allegorical journey through hell, purgatory, and paradise. Writing in Tuscan vernacular rather than Latin, Dante effectively standardized Italian as a literary language, making profound theological and philosophical ideas accessible to a broader audience. At the outset of Inferno, the Pilgrim, Dante finds himself lost in a dark wood, symbolizing spiritual confusion and moral error. He is rescued by the spirit of Virgil, author of the Aeneid and exemplar of classical wisdom and human reason. Virgil's presence underscores the melding of pagan and Christian traditions. Reason alone can guide us through the recognition of sin, but higher love and faith, personified later by Beatrice, are needed to ascend beyond mere moral insight. Structure and detailed levels of Inferno. Inferno is organized into 34 cantos written in terza rima, A-B-A-B-C-B, mapping 9 concentric circles of hell. Before each descent, Dante declares, "Now begins the ordinal level of the Inferno," preparing the reader for a new thematic vista. First level, Limbo. This circle houses virtuous non-Christians and unbaptized infants who, though not guilty of sin, are barred from paradise due to the absence of baptism. Great minds of antiquity, Homer, Socrates, Plato, and Julius Caesar, dwell here in a serene but sorrowful court. They experience no physical torment, yet a perpetual longing shadows their peace. Limbo's meaning hinges on desiderium, the unattainable desire for divine union. Souls retain their intellect and virtue but suffer internal sorrow, illustrating that moral excellence cannot substitute for divine grace. Their predicament underscores medieval theology's emphasis on sacraments and faith. Second level, Lust. Here, souls overcome by carnal passion are swept in a ceaseless whirlwind, buffeted by tempestuous winds that symbolize the restlessness of unchecked desire. Dante encounters Francesca da Rimini, whose adulterous love story with Paolo Malatesta epitomizes emotional excess. Their tragic romance, recounted in haunting dialogue, arrests Dante's pity and highlights the tension between human empathy and moral order. Lust's punishment reflects the nature of the sin. Victims relinquished reason to passion. The violent wind signifies how lust tosses the mind into chaos. This level warns that unbridled desire, however seductive, ultimately disrupts the soul's tranquility and moral compass. Third level, Gluttony. Gluttons lie in a vile mire of icy filth, pelted by never-ending hail and muck. Cerberus, the monstrous three-headed hound, tears at their flesh while they grovel in self-indulgence's refuse. Dante meets Ciacco the hog, whose prophetic lament predicts Florence's strife, an example of personal and civic consequence intertwined. This circle's agony dramatizes the self-destructive cycle of excess consumption. The sensory horror of stench and sludge externalizes gluttony's internal corruption. Creatures who once gorged on pleasure now endure repulsion and degradation. Fourth level, Greed and wastefulness. Avaricious and prodigal clash in a grotesque tug-of-war, rolling colossal weights against one another. Their ceaseless conflict dramatizes the futility of hoarding or squandering wealth. Among them, Dante sees popes and cardinals indicting ecclesiastical corruption. This level reveals how material obsession undermines communal harmony and personal virtue. The burdensome stones symbolize the weight of misplaced priorities, eternally reminding souls that earthly riches are transient and spiritually bankrupt. Fifth level, Wrath and Sloth. The wrathful rage at one another on the swampy banks of the river Styx, tearing flesh and shouting insults. Beneath the surface, the sullen gurgle and choke, silenced by their own apathy and despair. Dante's visceral reaction to their violence underscores the clash between action-born anger and inaction-born indifference. Wrath here is unchecked aggression, a perversion of rightful indignation, while sloth is spiritual inertia. Together, they illustrate two extremes of will, one that destroys through fury, the other through neglect of moral duty. Sixth level, heresy. Heretics, including Epicureans who denied the soul's immortality, lie in fiery tombs for eternity. Flames engulf their coffins, and damned voices echo from within, lamenting their error. Notable here is Farinata degli Uberti, whose pride and prophetic vision embody political conflict in Florence. Heretics' punishment, burning intellect, is fitting. Their denial of eternal life reduces truth to ashes. The burning sepulchres symbolize the destructive consequences of erroneous doctrine and moral hubris. Seventh level, violence. This level splits into three rings. 1. Violence against others, submerged in boiling blood. Centaurs patrol mercilessly, shooting arrows at those who surface too high. 2. Violence against self. Suicides become gnarled trees, their branches broken and eaten by harpies, reflecting self-destruction. 3. Violence against God, nature, and art. Blasphemers, sodomites, and usurers lie on scorching sands under fiery rain. Here Dante confronts personal and societal destruction, each ring illustrating a perversion of love, hatred of neighbor, self-hatred, and rejection of divine order. Eighth level, fraud, Malebolge. 10 Bolgias punish a range of fraudulent sins: seducers lashed by demons, flatterers submerged in excrement, false counselors encased in tongues of flame. Dante's guided tour through Malebolge reveals the subtlety of deceit. Each Bolge's tailored torture exposes fraud's varied disguises. He meets Ulysses, whose boundless ambition led him to crafty and ultimately tragic deeds. Fraud's multifaceted punishments underscore the intellectual component of sin. Deliberate deception corrupts the social fabric by subverting trust. Ninth level, treachery. Encased in Cocytus, a frozen lake, traitors endure according to their betrayal's gravity. From family to country, guests to benefactors, each circle of ice marks deeper deception. At the core, Lucifer, trapped waist-deep in ice, eternally chews on Judas, Brutus, and Cassius, the ultimate symbols of treachery. Treachery against the closest bonds merits the coldest punishment, ice instead of fire, symbolizing the absence of love. This final depth illustrates that cold betrayal is the gravest affront to human and divine bonds. After the 9 levels of Inferno, the exit from hell. In Canto 34, Dante and Virgil confront Lucifer, immobilized in ice at the Earth's center. Scaling down his shaggy flanks, they pass through the planet's axis and emerge beneath the stars on the southern hemisphere's shore. There, Virgil departs, and Dante prepares to ascend Mount Purgatory, transitioning from reason's guidance to divine love's ascent. In Inferno, Dante crafts a moral mirror where each punishment embodies the essence of its sin. The lustful are swept by unceasing winds, while the hoarders and wasters roll immense weights in opposite directions, illustrating that every action begets inevitable consequences. His emphasis on free will underscores that each soul bears responsibility for its own fate. There are no arbitrary sentences. By placing corrupt priests, exiled rivals, and greedy judges among the damned, Dante delivers a sharp political and social critique, exposing institutional and personal corruption. Guided first by Virgil's reason and then by Beatrice's divine love, he merges pagan myth with Christian theology to chart a path from sin to salvation. Writing in Tuscan vernacular and inventing terza rima, Dante democratized literature and established a rhythmic complexity that continues to influence poets, artists, and thinkers. From Botticelli's delicate drawings and Doré's dramatic engravings to modern video games, immersive theater, and films, Inferno remains an ethical and aesthetic beacon, challenging generations to reflect on justice, choice, and redemption. If you enjoyed this analysis, please leave a like, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to Eternal Philosophies for more explorations of philosophy and mythology.